Ready? Oh, welcome to another live edition of the First 2 Battalion Chief, Danny Sheridan, or is it Battalion Chief Danny Sheridan? Now I forget what I call it. I think it's First 2 Battalion Chief. But anyway, so today here live at FDIC, I'm truly honored. I mean this, Tom. I have Tom Barry, a lieutenant from 42 Truck. Tom, welcome.
Thank you very much.
This was such a pleasant surprise that you were here. Just a little history about Tom. He was a lieutenant in 42 Truck, which was in the South Bronx where I worked when I was a probie. He probably barely remembers me, but I do remember him very well. And what I do remember mostly is that there was a fellow that he used to let ride with you guys, Mike Dick. He looked like Gandalf.
Yeah.
He had this long white beard, and I remember being detailed over there. And I remember him just taking a lot of pictures. And then so fast forward, probably 20 years later, I'm on the internet and I come across these pictures. I'm like, wow, these like bring back so many memories, you know? And I started looking at the pictures, and then I started using them in some of my posts on Instagram and the Twitter and whatnot. And I just love these pictures, man. I mean, they just bring back so many memories.
Yeah, Mike was fortunate. Mike had the permission. Was a professional. He still is a professional photographer. And his first love initially, he had been a firefighter in the Air Force, and he got discharged. He got into photography, and he was a nature photographer, and he's had thousands of pictures published in Natural History, National Geographic, and he used to travel to zoos all over the world. Yeah. And back in the day, in the 70s, one of his neighbors was with FDNY, and they started talking about fire photos. So Mike got permission from FDNY to ride. His neighbor introduced Mike to me, and the idea was to put a book of photos together with stories of the fire departments. And initially, a book was published with Quinlan Press in 1986. Quinlan Press went out of business, and it wasn't necessarily a financially really good thing because they went bankrupt when we were never paid. And then about 3 years ago, Fire Engineering contacted us to put this book together. And this is entirely new. 34,000 words of stories and over 240 color photographs. And Mike came right up. He was with us. I had no issues. He got in the fire floor as long as he was out of the way. And since he had been a firefighter in the Air Force, he kind of knew what he was doing, and he did stay out of the way.
Well, you know what's amazing, Tom, and I'm not really saying this just to say it and to make you like, you know, blow smoke, but the pictures are freaking amazing,
outrageous.
And I think what enabled him to take these pictures is that, let's face it, a lot of these buildings were vacant.
Yeah.
And they were opened up. So, I mean, some of these pictures, Mike is like right on the fire floor.
Yeah.
And for me, it just captures that like memory of me being in a fireman in 17 Truck when this was going on. This book is just a wee bit earlier than when I came on a job, but it did go up until like the late 80s, let's say.
Yeah.
So because I recognize some of these fires. I think I might even be.
You are in some of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know it. Yeah.
So it's just, when I first saw these pictures, I just fell in love with them. You know, I mean, I just could not get enough of them. And I was trying to, you know, show people like, this is what it was like when I worked in the South Park. And I so remember you in 42 Truck because I remember when they closed the 5-5 Battalion.
Yeah.
I think sometime in the 80s, somewhere in late.
And it's mid 80s, mid to late 80s. Yeah.
They closed the 5-5, and then you guys came into the 14th Battalion.
Yeah.
And we were getting details, and 29 Truck was still a towel ladder at the time.
Yes, 29 was, and Ray Phillips was the chauffeur there.
Yes, he was. Gonzo, yep. I remember.
Gonzo, and then he moved over to Rescue 3, and God bless his soul, he's now passed on.
I have great memories of Gonzo. Gonzo, you get detailed to 29 Truck, and he's got the whole house watched to himself. It was in the middle of the firehouse, and he had this. It was like Command Central. He had radios, and he had phones, you know, to like the president. It was like Ray was like, he had the police scanners on, and it was just like he had the 12 by.
Yeah.
And he was like in command of
Yeah. That's
that
very
place.
true. Yeah.
But I always loved coming over to 42 truck. I could still remember all those guys. I mean, there's no one left that I work with anymore that was from that era.
No,
The
no.
last guy that just retired was Terry Ward,
Terry Ward, yeah.
up in 32
His,
truck.
real name is Warren
Warren, yeah.
Terrence Ward.
So
But no, he hated the name Warren, which
So-
is the worst thing you can say in the firehouse.
Right.
So a lot of places they called him Warren, but
Oh.
everybody knew him as Terry Ward.
I never
Yeah,
let him live
yeah.
that down, but it's so funny. So he had his last night just recently up in 32 truck. He was
Yeah.
there for 20 years, I think.
Yeah.
And I walk in, and as soon as I walk into the firehouse, he's got his old coat, the old rubber boots, and his old helmet, and he was wearing it on his last night tour.
Yeah.
You know, and then he's got all your pictures out on the house watching.
Yeah.
That one picture I looked at, I just recognize everybody
Yeah.
from, from all my details over there. And we played basketball together. I remember we
Yeah.
joined forces. So
Yeah.
42 truck. We had Jerry Farrell. We
Yeah.
had
Tommy Kelly played, yeah.
Tommy Kelly.
Tommy Kelly actually played high school ball with Lou Alcindor.
I could see that. Yeah, in
Yeah.
Power. Yeah. Yeah.
Tommy was a
Yeah.
freshman when Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was a senior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we had Pete Befield. God
Yeah,
rest his
Pete
soul.
Befield, God rest his soul.
Yeah. Danny Saida.
Yeah.
His twin brother.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Bobby Panach came from the same neighborhood in the Bronx.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah.
we were close back then.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You know, I find that back in those days in the 6th Division, that we all everyone knew everybody.
You
You
did.
know, you got detailed. We only had battalion details at the time, but then we
Yeah.
opened it up and then, but the fires, there's multiple alarms. I mean, just two,
Well,
3 times a night,
And the other thing too is when we took up, job was knocked down and come time to load the hose on, everybody hung around and packed the hose.
Yeah.
And there's a few pictures in the book with 20 guys
I know
packing
the
hose.
line just goes.
And, I covered in other areas of the city, and that was not the case.
Yeah.
But it is the case up there and, and I believe it still is,
Yeah, it's just the 6th Division, it's just a special place,
Yeah.
So anyway, so about the book, it's just, I'm just amazed at some of these pictures. I see you covered in 28 truck too, so I know you were
Yes,
you were
yeah.
UFO there for a while. So
Yeah.
there's half pictures from 28 truck and then the others mostly from 42 truck,
Yeah.
and but this really just it's a book like no other. I mean, just some of the. And they're not, you could tell they're not posed. Like, here's a picture of Tom Neary, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
being very Tom Neary after a job,
Yeah, Tom
Sitting on
Neary
the
is
steps.
legendary. Tom Neary was the
Yeah.
first person in FDNY to win the James Gordon Bennett Medal twice.
Twice,
And that's the
yeah.
highest and oldest FDNY award.
Right.
And I was present when he won the first one,
Yeah.
and I thought it was absolutely insane.
Well, we have Frank Leeb just showed up, the chief of training, and
Tom
Paul from the
Barry.
New York
Yeah.
State
How are you?
fire chiefs. Just grab some chairs, guys. So
Tom Barry.
we'll get a little closer.
You have
Yeah.
to get a little close here.
Yeah. His flight
Can
was
you go right
delayed,
down?
so he apologized. So anyway, Frank, I don't know if you know Tom, but Tom wrote this book.
We just met
Yeah, he
2 minutes ago.
He just put this book together, and I love this book. These pictures just really, they just capture the true essence of what the 6th Division was like back in the day, and all the faces. I worked with all these guys. It was just like,
Yeah, when we bumped in before and we started flipping through it, I had forgotten some of the names,
Yeah.
and but I remember the guys, and he photographic memory.
I do have a penchant for remembering faces, names, but I can tell you the faces, and I'll get around to the names eventually.
And Dan, you worked with a lot of these people?
I did.
Well, you have what, 52 years on the job?
It's
I always
30
forget.
no,
I always
it's
forget
36,
how much
so.
time you
But-
have. I know you
no,
have a
but-
lot.
But I'm humbled. You know why I'm really humbled? Because I was a probie and he was a lieutenant 42 truck, and they walked on water, these guys. Like, I used to just be in awe of these guys like him, Jimmy Ginty, Bobby Blair, Merkel.
Merkel.
He
yeah,
just friended me on Facebook.
yeah.
Mike McLaughlin.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
These guys were just like,
Tom, when'd you get out?
I got out in 94, 95, one of the two. I forget.
Somewhere around
Yeah,
there, early
yeah,
90s, mid 90s.
I came in in
Excellent.
68, but you just mentioned 50, and I got to tell the story. Flying out here, I told you the story. Flying out here, another person, a chronologically challenged woman, an older woman with gray hair. we're sitting down next to each other. We hardly exchanged words on the flight, very pleasant woman. We're getting up, we're getting ready to land, and the stewardess comes back and she looks at us and she says, "You two are the loveliest couple I've ever had." Now, I never met her before. This woman picks up on it right away. She says, "Oh, thank you. We just celebrated our 50th anniversary."
She's married to a firefighter somewhere.
Oh, she has to be, but she was a stewardess. Now we're getting off and she grabs my arm. She says, "We have to sell this, honey, going off." And she, and we danced down.
That's funny.
Oh, so when you said 50, it just clicked in my mind. I'm sorry.
So just to introduce Frank real quick, he's now our chief of training in the FDNY, and Paul Melfi is, Paul, I know you're with the fire chiefs, you're the.
He's with the New York State Association of Fire Chiefs,
but you're the
that's
head.
what his badge says.
I know, but are you the head of, I know, you're the training coordinator, right? And we just had a nice training.
He
about
spends half his time with me at the fire academy. He's always there. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure, Paul, you had to spend half of the last month.
Yeah.
At
That's
the-
right,
at
you
Fire
taught the,
Academy for whether it was
Instructor
instructor two,
Instructor two, yeah.
whether it was the hands-on training weekend that we had. He's,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
a long time good friend to the FDNY.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's up in the old Air Force Base, the academy, right?
No, our academy is
Yeah.
not, no.
No, the State
The State
Academy?
Academy is in Montour.
Montour
Falls.
Falls.
Upstate.
Monitor forms, yeah.
It's-
Yeah, I
Anything north of
delivered
Yonkers is
ICS
upstate.
400 training there about,
There's a.
10 years
there's a-
ago,
There's
yeah.
they call it the statewide DHSES, so. it's
Oh, okay, that
Homeland
was the
Security-
facility.
Homeland-
Yeah.
Homeland Security.
yeah, because that's where I was working
I
for,
do.
yeah.
Yeah. So another just Tom, see, I have a house in Bayville now, which is Long Island. And the minute I'm there, they found out I was a firefighter. The first thing they asked me, "Do you know Tom Barry?" I said, "Yes, I know Tom Barry. Tom was a lieutenant in 42 truck." Well, it turns out we're his son and we're all neighbors now, like out in Bayville, my summer house, So I said, "I haven't seen Tom probably since I got promoted to
Yeah.
lieutenant in 95. I
Yeah.
probably haven't seen you in probably 25 to
Yeah.
20 some odd years." And then the book comes out and I'm like, wow. I mean, if I have to ever endorse a book, this would be the one, because
Well,
there's no other book that captures not quite the war years. It was a little bit like kind of on the back
the
end
end,
of the
yeah.
war years, but nevertheless, I mean, we still caught a
Oh, ton of work,
boatload
ton
of
of work,
vacant
yeah.
buildings, and I mean,
The stories start with in 68 and they run right up till 95, yeah.
I
But
remember.
I don't want to take away from your guys' time.
No,
Yeah,
we're all
it's
just it's organic. here,
I would say that the fire service training between the state and the city is frontline. I mean, we have, we're leaders internationally, I believe, yeah.
Well, I think it was kind of amazing that Paul put together this training with Frank at the Rock. I mean, I could see the looks on the guys' faces. We had these volunteers or paid guys from all over the state in the training at the FDNY Fire Academy, and I thought the training went pretty darn good. I mean, I thought it was top notch, But, I'm trying to visualize like a firefighter from anywhere in Long Island or wherever coming to the FDNY and train for a day. I mean, that
Yeah.
would have to be high on their list of things to do, right?
I worked with the DHS contract with a fellow from Buffalo that did his training down there as an
Right.
officer.
Well, one
In
thing that,
Buffalo?
No,
Yeah.
in FDNY.
On the
he came
FDNY.
down.
well, Tom, the one thing that we've always done since I got promoted in 95 is that we've always had flips. The first line lieutenants
Supervisor, yeah.
I remember we got very close. We'd have 15 New York guys and 15 New York State guys. And I remember guys from Niagara Falls, Syracuse, Rochester, Albany.
Yeah, the majority of New York State comes down for
Right.
flips training, and it
Yeah.
is nice because there is that cross pollination of the members of the FDNY and
Yeah.
other members of the
Right.
state.
Right.
Is good, right? And most times it leads to lifelong friendships and connections in other
Absolutely.
departments, which you can't beat. Hey, I'm looking at some of the pictures in here. I see a picture of Chief Dunn on page 163. I
Oh,
see
yeah.
Jack Kleehouse on
Yeah.
as a lieutenant in Squad 41 on page 16.
Yep.
And I see the old
His
the old
father
red-
was a fireman.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And I see the old red shrinky dink gloves. that we used to
The
have,
red
right?
balls, the red balls.
Those red
Red
ones.
balls,
uh,
yeah.
Fireball.
Yeah, that's right, the
The orange
fireball.
fireball.
Yeah.
They're great until you saw a lot of heat.
Yeah.
Hence the
Yeah.
word shrinky dink.
Well, another thing
So-
too, you see the old rigs, and I saw on the back step, they still had the booster reels, and how many times do we stretch a booster into the
Oh.
vacant buildings?
Yeah.
Well, that's why we got rid of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't, it was more than once that we stretched
Yeah,
that
yeah.
booster into it. But all the vacants we had down on, all Southern Boulevard, Beck, and it's all changed now.
Oh, yeah.
I'm the battalion commander down there. The whole area is different. I remember abandoned cars, abandoned buildings,
Oh.
all up and down Beck and Dawson and Rogers.
Well, you remember 500 Southern, which was that complex of like
Unbelievable. Yeah.
6 or 7 6-story
H-type. Yeah.
H-type.
Yeah.
And they were in an O. So
In
it
an
was
O,
a center
yeah.
courtyard.
Yeah.
And when it finally, the final, like the coup de grace, I think, what are we surrounded with? 7 or 8 tower ladders.
Yeah.
Now it's all renovated and it's high end.
So,
Yeah.
you know, one of the things that I'm concerned about is the battalion commander in the third battalion is that, see, I still remember this. I remember the vacants. And I had this discussion with one of my captains. I said, Cap, I want you to start looking at all your buildings. I want you to put, if it's a renovated building, I want you to put rehab in the SIDS. He says, Chief, how am I going to do that? He says, some of these buildings were renovated in the 80s and the 90s. I said, I know that, but we have to let these firefighters know that these rehab buildings are problem. And you saw it firsthand. And now Frank's the chief of training, and Frank was nice enough to let me do a training one day in an old vacant, well, it's a rehab now, just to get the word out there. Like,
There's a story in there about SIDS when Roy Fox was the chief he was on his way out, retiring. And he was starting the SIDS program. And we hit it off, He come up and 42 Trucks Administrative District was the first one in the city where we had every building in there. And he's coming up to go over this. We had a 4-story row building, front fire escape, no rear fire
Yep.
escape, and there were railroad.
Yep.
The automatic assumption on most guys, they'd roll up, they see a front fire escape,
Yep.
oh, there's gonna be a rear fire escape.
Yep.
There's 2 apartments to a floor. We had that in SIDS, and Roy come up, and Mel Calicman was the battalion chief in the 5-5. And we rolled up, and the late Joe Marchbanks, he had the roof, he went right up, brought the roof rope, and we did have somebody hanging out the back. There was no fire escape. If that wasn't in there, if SIDS didn't exist,
right.
and it's foolish, they have to take advantage of it fully.
And that
Get
was the
the
origin of the
information.
SIDS program. That's good. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I mean,
Roy
you
Fox,
know,
yeah.
No doubt about it. The SIDS program has saved countless lives
Oh,
of
yeah.
civilians and firefighters. That
Yeah.
actionable intelligence that it gives us before arriving,
Amen.
right, is just remarkable and really just decades before its time.
Yeah. Oh,
It's,
yeah.
That information, and you could have wrote something back then on a building that'll save a life today.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
information,
Yeah.
especially when you think about renovated buildings or
Oh,
Right.
new lightweight construction building and stuff like that, where that information, the time to see it, once it's buttoned up, the opportunity to see it and
Yeah.
report it in that program is
Yeah.
lost.
One of the most well-known stories I remember about SIDS, I don't know if you remember Tom Roby.
Yeah.
So he was in the 16th Battalion. I think it was Tom. I heard 2 different versions of the story, but it doesn't matter who it was. They had a fire on Lennox and 135th, let's say, wherever it was. And the key to SIDS is the address, right? You have to have the address
Yeah.
in order to get the SIDS on a building. So anyway, they got an all hands, maybe 2 or 3 floors going in a vacant. And I think there's 3 engines, on each floor, truck, squad, whole shebang. And Tom says to his aide, 1-6 Alpha, hey, Mike, any SIDS on this building? Hold on, Chief. He says, what's the address? 480 Lennox. Okay. Yeah, Chief, under no circumstances should anybody be in that building. Tom, he gets on the radio, all members out of the building, like immediately. They evacuate the building. What do you think happened to the building? It collapsed as soon as the last guy came up. Because Roby, had the wherewithal to look for the SIDS. Because
He
we
was very, very sharp.
So, yeah, the SIDS, but my concern now is that we're moving away from what the renovated, the rehab, the dangers of all these rehab buildings, because I feel like I'm one of the last of the generation that really worked in these vacant buildings, you know, and I'm trying to impart this to the younger guys and they're not grasping it, you know what I mean? And
Well, I mean, we certainly don't have as many vacant buildings as we did, you know, back when you came on the job, you know, 60 years ago.
36.
So I get out of the Uber, I'm rushing here, right?
Right.
So I see a whole bunch of people, right? So it's, you come to FDIC and you can't move 5 feet
Right.
without seeing somebody. So
Right.
I'm shaking hands, hugging people. I come across Paul. I'm like, come on, we could go break Danny's chops together. Cause he's like, he told me to come. I'm like, come on, we could do it on Danny's program. So that's the true indication that someone likes you, right? When they
Oh,
do
without
that.
a
Oh,
doubt.
yeah.
You may prefer not to be on your radio program, but it's
That's
the
all
true indication. And I love working with Danny. He's, I have him out of the fire academy a lot. Before the pandemic, before we had to,
yeah.
before we had to send him back,
Right.
I had him out there. I had the hook really in on him to stay. He's done remarkable work with our remote tactical training that we're doing, where we broadcast drills out live. And he actually, what he was talking about is he went into a renovated building in the Bronx, and they actually had apartments that were still being renovated. So he was able to show all the construction features of the structure before it was renovated, or while it was being renovated. And he brought in different units each day and had different subject matter experts. And every day was chock full of just so much information, right? Depending on who he had on there and interviewed. And I always say what Danny is exceptionally good at is pulling information out of whoever he's talking to.
Yeah.
Not looking to show he's the smartest guy in the room. He's incredibly smart. He's the knowledge that this guy has is incredible. But on the shows, he does a great job of pulling the information out and letting the people who are on his program be the person who's providing the majority of the information. And it's why I love when he does this. I got to keep him on script sometimes. That's a challenge. So I got to put him on a short leash. You know, when he's talking about renovated buildings, and the next thing you know, he's talking about fires and taxpayers. I'm like, stick to the script.
All right.
We only have 20 minutes.
The retractable dog leash.
Right.
That's right. That's exactly
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Knick
That's what
knack
we need.
here.
It's all relevant, but anyway, but what I like about Tom is that he just brings back to me like these memories. Like when I remember I came into 17 truck and I worked with guys like Jack Ryan and Tom McDowell, and then over in your place you had Ginty and you know,
McLaughlin,
Mike
Blair,
McLaughlin, Bobby, and these guys were the world's biggest ball breakers on the planet, bar none. Didn't they take Merkel one time and hung him upside down?
I don't know what we can say. On
Yeah.
He's probably watching right
Firehouse
now.
stays in the firehouse.
Oh, my God.
It was just so much fun. But they were fun, but they were great firemen. Like I heard a story about, what was his name? Werner. He was a little bit fun. He had a fire in his town. He was in an upstate town somewhere.
Yeah.
Didn't he pick up the nozzle man?
Yeah.
And
Warner was big, you know.
did the elephant house.
It was
right?
the elephant house.
Every guy was like 6'3" and
We would go to a racket, because maybe at that time I was 5'10". I shrunk considerably, but all these guys were 6'3", 6'4", 260. They were lined.
big guys.
We'd go into a party and I have a little rope and they'd all be holding it like there were elephants, the elephant house coming to a racket.
And 73, I mean, God bless him, Richie Bonacorsa.
Yes, he just retired,
Maybe-
39 years. yeah.
Maybe the best chauffeur.
Yeah.
And we say that in New York City, we call them chauffeurs, and some people take offense to it, whether you want to call him an engineer or a driver, but
Yeah.
regardless of what you call him, he was
Yeah.
by far the best I've ever seen.
Yeah,
And I think his motivation actually came from the fire across the street where we lost the captain.
yeah.
That drove him.
yeah,
Like,
Jimmy
this is what
McDonald
happens
was
with
killed.
tragedies though, right?
Yeah.
Vinnie Dunn was driven by the 23rd Street fire. Richie was driven by
By
that fire. And
Captain
Richie,
McDonald's death, yeah.
yeah, and Richie became the best chauffeur. I had a job with him one time. I have to say, I had three buildings exposed. I had in Hunts Point on what is that, Garrison Avenue.
Garrison.
So you guys were second to. And someone lit up 17 trucks. That's a report I got from the roofman. 17 trucks on fire, and every building was exposed. And Richie's driving 73. Do you think I was worried?
No.
Not a bit. Richie had 5 lines. He had towel ladders supplied. He was in charge.
He had all of the hydraulics in his mind.
Yeah.
This number of lines, this is the pressure I gotta give. That, and you know, we still use the 1 3/4 at some time. I don't know if it's still in the job, but
We have it. Yeah.
You're still-
Three-quarter, yeah.
because that
Yeah.
came in with the rapid water, you know, when
I'll tell you.
which was
Rapid water.
I'll tell you
what a
So
boondoggle.
tell us more about rapid
What
water.
a boondoggle, man.
Rapid water. that
But
was
I'll tell you how
something
good Richie is. We had a job on Beck Street one time. It was a 3-story, one of those walk-ups on Beck, right off of 156. Richie knew that the hydrant in front of the building was out of service.
Yeah.
He knew it was out of service.
Hmm.
I saw him after the fire, and he had already had planned for it. That he knows every hydrant in that district, you
Yeah.
know, and that's the kind of guys that we
Yeah,
had.
no,
And
listen, I mean, and we still have, you think about it, when you
Right.
say you know, the best chauffeur, I mean, that's quite a compliment because we
Oh,
have
yeah.
so many good chauffeurs,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They could get water out of a cactus if they had to,
Yeah.
in the middle of the desert. Some of our chauffeurs are just phenomenal, right? So
Yeah.
whether it's engine or truck chauffeurs, think, right, you pull up and you know, the truck chauffeur on the pedestal, you need information about the fire, he's got it.
Yeah.
He or she's got it. Just
Yeah.
ask that person. And yeah, you know, if you're developing, what makes a great firefighter? It's almost always someone who's already a chauffeur, right? So whether it's an engine or a truck,
Right.
especially the truck, it always seems like they are the best firefighters, but wind up being chauffeurs, the go-to firefighters,
Yeah.
right? And even in the engine, I always say the best control firefighter, the person who, or best nozzle firefighter, winds up being someone who understands the rig, understands pressure,
Yeah.
understands when he's got static water as static pressure, you know, that type of stuff. So he knows flow to water, so the chauffeur could set the pressure,
Yeah.
stuff like that. But yeah,
So,
we're
so
fortunate.
one thing that Frank would want to hear is that, I don't know where it started. It probably started in your day with the training in that firehouse, but like
Well, I
73, I have to tell you, like, when people ask, like, where do you want to send a probie? I'll tell them 73, because at the time, you know, well, Richie was there, Danny
Yeah.
Saida.
Yeah.
I mean, Danny Sombrado, the captain
Yeah.
of 73, and
Oh,
we've had him out
I
numerous
knew,
times to the
Yeah,
rock.
Danny's great.
And then we had his lieutenant Kevin, and, you know, in the culture of the training, you go to 73, and I mean, these guys, you don't see engines trained like these guys.
No.
You know, and
Danny was a firefighter there?
Danny Sombrado, he's the
Yeah.
captain of 73.
Oh, he's
a-
a captain there. I know him as a lieutenant in 22 engine.
Yes.
And you talk about like a
Right,
squared away individual.
The
I mean, he was,
ultimate engine officer.
yeah, just fantastic. And
Yeah.
I loved when
But-
I would work there with him.
But that came from his generation.
and I picked it up from the
Right.
brothers in front of me. Yeah.
Yeah, so,
There was just an atmosphere to transfer information, you know, we drilled a lot. But yeah, I was kind of strange. I had a master's in chemistry. And at one point in time, I used to do roofing on the side as a fireman, $22 a day off the books.
Masters in chemistry. What were you doing in the fire department?
Well,
we have all types.
I thought I'd teach high school chemistry.
Yeah.
I lasted one day
Yeah.
and I said, I'm gonna go to jail with these kids, you know? We go in the fire, and one thing you had to do, and you know, with training, is make it fun,
Yeah.
get them involved, the people that are being trained. It should be entertainment is what I
Yeah.
called it.
Yeah.
And we'd go back and we'd look at the building later on. And if there was something, I'd ask the guys, everybody look at it, give me your perspective on it. You know, what could you have done better? Or did we do it right? And if it went well, it was fine, you know, but somebody could say, you know, I didn't see this or that. And how come you guys did? And we talk about sharing information. But I came in and I lived and worked under God, Bobby Farrell. God with a small G. And so as a consequence, we went over everything. So now I'm an officer, we're going to do the same thing. And, you know, I had Joe Marchbanks was a fireman under me. You know, we had a lot of good guys that come up and they were officers.
Tommy Von Essen. was a
Tommy Von
chauffeur.
Essen was, yeah.
Future
That's why you
commissioner.
look
of the
at it,
job.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
every generation
Yeah.
is built off the previous generation.
Amen.
right?
Yeah.
And
Solid foundation on Prospect Avenue. So let me ask you, so Paul, question, that training we just did recently at the Rock, you know, that you arranged with
Okay.
Frank, are we gonna see more of that in the
I'm-
future?
I'm hoping, that was an idea that I bounced off Tommy Richardson
Right.
back in, when we were doing some live fire training across the country together. So
Right.
he always like, that's a great idea. I said, yeah, I want to bring outside people to the FDNY Fire Academy. They're going to love to just come there and say, I went there and
Yeah.
I did some training under some of the best instructors. And
Yeah.
that was the impetus
Yeah.
to kick that off. So, I mean,
So they went there, they got the T-shirt and they got some training.
That's-
So it was.
But you can
know,
see it in their faces. Like when they
Oh,
came
yeah.
to the station, you could tell that they were
they're
like,
glowing. I
just
mean,
like, wow.
and I
you
don't know
know?
what year you all went through flips, but I went through an 88, so that's a long time.
That's a long time ago. Yeah.
And,
They didn't
uh,
have flips when
They didn't
I
have
went
flips.
through
Yeah.
78,
Yeah.
68,
Yeah.
78.
So,
So-
85 it started. I
Yeah.
went in 88.
Yeah. Well, I hope that
And,
we'll be continue to
I-
see
I'm-
this
I'm hoping
relationship because
that
I think it was a great
relationship
idea.
continues.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh, yeah.
Frank
What'd you
and I
think of
talk
his
about it.
prop? His water
The
prop?
water prop's amazing. In fact,
People love that prop.
I'm asking Frank to allow me to build one
Yeah.
when we do the show in Syracuse.
Yeah.
And we can carry on some of that.
I got
that
more
training.
requests. I have that on my YouTube. If anyone see a great prop that Frank got
Well,
brought to
so,
the FPM,
yeah, so
the water prop, the water mapping.
yeah, so it's not my prop. Let's, you know,
I know.
um,
Frank-
yeah, no. So it's UL's prop
UL's
and,
prop, yeah.
and the good folks at UL,
Right.
were gracious enough to donate that prop to us. I've been trying to get it for a while. We developed, I was there the first couple of times they used it.
Yeah.
Down in Delaware County Fire Academy and some of the boot camps where they built it. And it started off as two different props.
Right.
It was the hallway prop to show, to show what we can do with air entrainment and moving it around.
Right.
And then it was, the second prop was the room to show exterior water application, how to do that. And then in the FDNY, we took that and made the 4 S's. But even the lintel hit, all of that. We saw that in
Bank
the
shot,
acquired.
yeah.
We did that when we were in Ohio at the acquired structure study. When we saw, we had, we put it off of the lintel, the top of the window, and broke up the stream because
Right.
we're looking at visual clues to determine when we've put enough water in from the exterior. So
Right.
putting it on the lintel, if the ceiling has failed, exposing the attic, we'll see a visual clue that might be misleading. It's putting out attic fire, but may not be doing as much in the room. So we love the prop, and then it was put together as a bedroom prop and a hallway. And now you could show like putting it off of the king post or the door jamb, whatever you want to call it, and deflecting water into the room, starting on the opposite side of the hallway, staying low, all the different things, all the tactical nuances that equal success on the fire ground. So much of that we're able to develop it. And it started out being called the water mapping prop.
Right.
And unless you're really into the research and what's going on in the fire service, when you hear water mapping prop, you say, what the hell are you talking about? So we've been trying to come up with a name. We came up with all these different things and just ending engine tactics prop, whatever it is. UL actually has a good name for it, but and there's one here. I know Keith Stakes from UL is here. He's not teaching, but he's doing something with the Indianapolis Fire Department, I think. But I'm pretty sure there's one of those on display. But on the UL, on all of the UL websites and Twitter and all, they're like the pinned tweet is directions on how to build your own.
Yeah.
And we've modified ours a couple times. Well, right? We do it for a month and we tell our guys, I want you to come up with many different ways. Queens is on fire.
We got a
We're
job.
A job in Queens. Let's see.
Let's see where it
We
is.
interrupt this program. Hollis Avenue in Queens, down in South Queens.
Tom started in 275, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone knows that. but He
Oh, so
started,
there you go.
68,
So
yeah.
the old neighborhood, is going. So a lot of technology changes. I could bring up, so 301, 317, 298, 150, 133, and the 5-4 battalion
the Hogs.
on that box. So I got all the information. So you talk about.
Where is it? Hollis Avenue and where?
So where is it? It's so fire in the junkyard.
Oh, jeez.
Okay.
Yeah, but to your
187,
point, right, about SIDS, I'm able to bring up on our incident
Yeah.
command app, this building has SIDS.
Yeah.
So it's
Right.
a commercial 2-story, 20 by 40, class 4 main warehouse, and then 2 warehouses on site with a heavy fire load, a gypsum roof,
Okay.
no roof ops on the warehouses, ensure a tower ladder on the first alarm. So that would explain that they special called a tower ladder
Yeah.
on the box. So they wound up, instead of getting 3 and 2, they got 3 and 3 in the chief. But this SIDS could have been entered long ago. And the fact that it's on here, you know,
Gypsum roofs. enough.
gypsum roof, right? So we
Oh,
don't,
yeah.
Roof.
Yeah.
you know, we're not going to be
Standard.
operating on a gypsum roof.
Right.
And it says it in the SID. So you think about the actionable intelligence that they got,
Yeah.
right? And it's just pretty convenient. It comes in while we're talking about SIDS
That's
and,
it. Yeah.
and the water prop. But
Right.
yeah,
You
all
know,
good stuff.
it-
So we're 761 miles away
Right.
And you got it.
from that right now. If
Yeah.
I wanted to
You know,
respond.
if you want to rename the prop to Sheridan, I mean, I have no
We,
problem with
we will not do that.
Sheridan prop,
Um,
though, it does sound really
It
good.
does, but we'll have to come up with something else.
Like the Halligan tool, the Sheridan
Yeah.
prop.
We'll have to come up with
It's an
something
Irish
else.
name.
Yeah.
That sounds like a woman's clothing.
It's an Irish
No.
name. I mean, come on, the Halligan, you know.
Yeah, but you know, it's a great prop. It has been modified and refined several times. That's what firefighters do, right? Let's add this, let's
Boston's
add
building
that.
one with the pitch roof, I think.
Mhm.
Miami's building one. So
Yeah, I mean,
it's all from.
They'll
from this.
be everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, eventually, because the reality of it is, I can teach, you know, 20 or 30 different things with that. We could sit at
Oh,
that prop and talk for hours.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? And how we could use different tactics to our advantage. And the more you sit there using it, the more you start talking and it evolves into different conversations. Even if it's not directly to the tactic, but it's, you know, it could be classroom learning and demonstration and hands-on all into one. And that's what everybody wants, right?
Right.
The evaluation after the training is, I want more hands-on. So you're getting some hands-on, but you're giving a lecture or whatever out there as well. It just works really well. I love doing training on that prop. I don't have as much time during the day to get out there and be involved as much as I'd like to, because
Yeah.
I super enjoy you know, getting out there.
So what I
training.
did was I got from the remote tactical guys, they gave me a 20-minute clip of it. I put it on my YouTube channel, Danny
Mhm.
Sheridan, you can look it up. But what I think the beauty of the prop is that we put the streamers on there, so
Mhm.
you could actually see the way the air moves. But the other thing is too, it's got plexiglass, right? So when you were a lieutenant, when you were a fireman, you know, you were told that, you know, this is the way we do it. We
I
move.
thought you were gonna say you didn't have plexiglass,
Well, that's true too.
but.
So then
They probably
it
didn't.
was
I
like,
don't know.
it was called Lexan back then.
Called
We called it
Lexan
Lexan.
back then, yeah.
But half of it is I lost my train, Lexan, whatever, plexiglass.
Yeah.
And so like everything that we were taught, right? So we were taught never open the line on smoke, move the line around in a clockwise, you know, the Coriolis, whatever it is, you're actually seeing it now. Like you're watching the water. And what I never realized until we got this prop is that when you hit it, the ceiling, the water doesn't just, it travels the ceiling and then it coats the whole room. And guys are looking at it like, wow, like, is that how that really works? And like, well, there it is, you know, like you're seeing it, you know, so this is just one of the many benefits that we got from that UL weekend in May of was it 19? Yeah. So, well, we still got a few minutes. So Paul, anything from
I
you?
wanted to just,
New York State
jump
Chiefs?
back off of what Frank said originally about the relationship between the entire state of New York. So the upstate guys, I guess that's what they call us. If you go
Yes.
past the
Yonkers, once you're, yeah.
well, you get past the George Washington Bridge, everybody else is upstate. I get that.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I
That's true.
understand the terminology because I've lived there a long time. I went there in '88 and I traveled around with the chief of safety. There was only one chief of safety, he happened to be on Randall's Island on the Rock. And we lived on the Rock back in '88 in the far building on the end that was supposed to be a Marine.
Yep, I know the building, yep.
Marine station. And the safety chief was McDonald. I won't forget the guy. And he actually taught a little bit down at the National Fire Academy. So I met him again, but it's just, I can't tell you the thousands of fire lieutenants that have traveled to New York for that training over the years and the impression that it's made on us and the professionalism that it's given us as far as leadership training. So it's pretty important stuff.
Yeah, I hope it continues. I had a blast.
And our stuff that we did
Yeah.
with the FDNY,
'Cause-
helping the state chiefs
Could-
just come up let's just try it. That was the impetus.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds like fun. And that's what you said
Yeah.
at the beginning. Training's gotta be fun.
Fun, yeah.
Yeah, but
And-
you know what's
and-
gonna happen, Paul? I'll tell you what's gonna
We had
happen. And
fun.
not that we
We had
wrote the
fun.
book on firefighting, but we do a lot of things right. We'll put it that way.
Have a lot
And-
of experience.
And what I could see happening is that the guys from New York State coming down to the fire academy, and then their training officers may come down from this city, that city. They'll take back what they learned from us back to their department.
And,
You know what I
we
mean?
can't discount the fact that they came from other states too.
I noticed
They
that Connecticut,
came
we had
from
some people,
Connecticut,
Jersey.
Delaware,
Yep, yeah.
Pennsylvania. They
So-
didn't just come from New York.
So it's a
we
great
grabbed the whole
concept.
That's
bunch
great.
of
And then,
people.
then they apply the tactics to how, their staffing, their topography, their buildings, their built environment, right?
Yeah.
Which may not replicate, what New York City has, but I think the reviews certainly showed that they, that they got a lot out of it.
Yeah.
And, also, not only the relationship that we have with the New York State Association of Fire Chiefs, which goes back a very long time, but even with the state and the state programs, because that's why he's usually at the fire academy, is because, he's been teaching for the state for a very long time and comes down with them. And he's really good at interacting with FDNY students, which we all know could be a challenge. If you come in, with not the right teaching methods or
Well,
attitudes.
we saw
it
that-
could be-
we
it
saw
could
that
be
in May.
problematic. Yeah, we see it.
We
see
saw
it
that
every
in
once a while.
2019. Yeah.
We see it every once in a while, but,
Yeah.
but we have a great relationship with the state. It continues to get
Yeah.
better. In fact, you had, you in the one that I was supposed to be on when I had the fire, right? You had, when you spoke about cancer, right? You had Tim Graves on from the
Yes.
state, right?
Yes.
So we've been working with Tim and
Right.
New York State and what they're doing for cancer in firefighters on the state level, with our firefighter one program that the
Yeah.
probies are getting, that we're gonna roll out to the field next year, with all of our instructor and officer development programs. So, yeah.
And
Paul's been a big part of that.
national certification, which is a accreditation, if you will,
Yeah.
accreditation building of the FDNY. And
You know-
that's important to all of us.
I have to tell you, I am so proud that I'm a New York City fighter. I mean,
Amen.
I would not have wanted to do anything else in my life, and I'm gonna go right to probably to the end, But one thing to just think how far reaching our effect is, and Frank is gonna be a big part of this too. It's just that I was blessed with the opportunity to go down to South America with guys from FDNY like Bobby Bohack, John Buckeye, just a whole slew of guys. And we actually brought New York City tactics to a city in Ecuador. I was quite surprised. It was 2 million people, had the same buildings we had in the Bronx. And I'm teaching these guys just how we do it, in the 6th Division, and they're doing it now, just
And
like
a fun fact, right? You self-taught yourself language. right?
Spanish.
He self-taught himself Spanish.
Right.
And now so when he goes down there to teach, you
Right.
still go down there a lot. I know you go down there
Not
sometimes.
since COVID, but
All right.
I would still like to.
So
but-
I had a similar opportunity. I went to France with the FDNY guys.
Okay.
After September 11th.
I know who
France.
orchestrated
Yeah,
that trip. Yeah.
It was Dr.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
can't remember his name.
All right.
I-
We don't have to.
But I went with the acting chief of ops. I went with
I know.
Chief Gladys. and,
Yes.
We went over.
I remember the trip.
Like
Yeah.
12 of us. I
Do you
think.
speak French now?
I had to learn it quickly.
Really?
Uh,
I
it
can't
was
speak a word.
pretty- It was pretty interesting,
so-
but they were very cordial to us and,
So-
learn that firefighters are firefighters no matter where
Oh,
we are in
yeah.
the country.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
love their
it doesn't
job,
matter
they
where in the
love
world
their
you're a
job,
firefighter.
and
Yeah.
they're proud of being firefighters,
Yeah.
and it's pretty cool.
I think, and I'll go back now to Tom, is that, what I'm finding, right? I'm on a job, and I've been through, I've seen a lot of changes on the job, and it just comes back to for the way these guys taught me. Things have changed. Let's face it. What's burning today is the plastics, the construction.
More
the lightweight-
BTUs.
Obviously, yeah, but
And-
the basic tenets of firefighting was from your generation.
Yeah.
You guys wrote the book. I spoke to guys in 17 truck and they wrote the OV position. You know what I mean? It's just like,
Well, Lattice 3, all of that was
Yeah.
written.
Out of-
Yeah, Bobby
know-
Farrell with the
Yeah.
the chief from the 2nd division or the 3rd division, I guess it is
Right.
now. Yeah,
did Bobby ever tell you
Yeah.
about the coffin cut?
yeah.
The cough and cut?
Yeah, that's about how far, that's about,
The
how-
cough and cut.
yeah,
So you
that's
cough
about
and
how
cut.
far you could cut without, before you could have to start coughing.
Oh,
Right. No.
But it really is, it's remarkable
Yeah.
how well our early documents have stood the test of time, right?
Good, yeah.
And really
Yeah.
you know, so the fire ground has changed as far as what's burning,
Tremendous.
but so much of what was written, science and research has verified it to be accurate.
Yeah.
It to a remarkable degree. And the majority of the changes are based more on the modern fire environment than anything else. Not on, because the tactics that were sound back then are largely still sound today. And it's humbling to think of that and to build off of the, you know, and stand on the shoulders of so many generations of giants. And experiences are transferable. And I tell, I give the probies a list of 20 something things, and it's not getting a kitchen, getting a sink. It's not, you know, shut up. It's not all, you know,
Right.
you have 2 years, listen more than you talk. It's not any of that stuff. It's all about the stuff. Listen to when the retired guys have stories, when the senior firefighters have stories, listen to them. They are transferring experiences to you.
Yeah.
And for us, it was, we were loading up our Rolodex. For them, they're loading up their hard drive with experiences. So the first
Yeah.
time they go to something, they have something to draw on.
Yeah, I could just give you a quick learning tip. I'm working in 42 truck. We catch a job and it's a taxpayer, whatever. And guy from 42 truck, it was like Mike McLaughlin or Richie Glover, one of those guys. And they grabbed like a table or something like that. And they stood up on a table and says, kid, take your hook and just rip it right down, you know, like take the hook and use it like a javelin and just rip the, I was like, wow. I've never seen that before. You know what I mean? It's just these like little tips that these guys.
Those
The
little tactile
overhaul,
nuances,
yeah,
right? The
yeah.
little things.
But how did they get it? Because it was just so busy and they were so, you know, they were just so willing to share their knowledge with us, you know, like John Hilly was in my probie class and he's
He's still on a job, right?
no, he just left.
Just
He
left?
was one of the
Oh,
last few
yeah.
guys that I worked with that,
Yeah.
Terry, like I said,
Terry Ward, yeah.
he's like
Yeah.
the last
Yeah,
guy that
yeah,
I worked
yeah,
with that
yeah.
is still on a job. So anyway, so we're running a little low on time. I just want to really plug this book. I really highly recommend this book. It's called Into the Smoke with New York's Bravest. It's Tom Barry and with photos by Mike Dick. And I'm telling you, if you want to grab the essence of what the FDNY was like in the 80s, there's no other book like it. I'm telling you, I've been on the website, on his website, and I just use those pictures for
Yeah.
everything because
Good man, yeah.
they just capture the.
I
the-
came
the-
on in 68. It starts essentially when I was a probie, and as I said, I retired in, I don't know, 94, 95. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But it runs all the way to that. And it talks about in there, we're talking about SIDS, that building up in the Bronx that was built with that federal state
Yeah,
funding. It
yeah.
did not have to comply.
Yeah,
You walked in
Yeah.
a vestibule, there were 4 sets of doors.
Right.
One of them went up to an apartment up, one
Right.
went to an apartment
2000
down,
Valentine.
2000
Yeah, I
Valentine.
had-
Yeah.
yeah, that was
And
my
we've had
district,
loss of life there and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And now the information on that building is so long that it tells you to call the dispatcher. And the dispatcher will read the chief, everything that's in there.
Yeah.
But SIDS is the only way that
Yeah.
is going to prevents anything catastrophic from happening.
Yeah, I want to,
Yeah.
like I said, and I just finish with this, is that, you know, as well as I do, Hunts Point, I think every tenement in
Oh.
Hunts Point is a rehab.
Yeah.
Because when I was a fireman, it was nothing but vacant buildings.
Yeah.
Hunts Point Avenue, Garrison,
Yeah.
Bryant, all vacant, and all those buildings have all the signs of rehab on there. And young firefighters have to understand, not only with the rehabs, but even in their own areas where they might have an old movie house, they might have an old church, and it gets converted into condos, and
Yeah.
now all of a sudden they drop the ceilings. Understand what the ramifications are of the
Yeah.
construction
Yeah.
changes, because it is the original building, but it's got tons of voids in it. And like Brannigan says, voids, you know, fire could spread with, unimpeded speed and kill firefighters.
Yeah.
Just as bad as collapse. So, and SIDS is one of our best weapons
Yeah.
against all this stuff. So
And
Yeah,
you
yeah,
look
there's
at,
plus the endorsements on here. You can't get better endorsements. You
Yeah.
got Chief Dunn and Chief DiBernardo.
two
yeah,
Like,
unbelievable guys.
that's,
No,
that's pretty powerful
Well,
endorsements you have on here.
I appreciate that. I want, if anything comes out of this, listen to them about the training. Training's gonna save your life.
Hmm.
Training's gonna save your life,
absolutely. And we got the right guy. At
Oh,
at the
without a
helm,
doubt.
That's for sure.
without a
And,
doubt.
Paul, thank you for coming. I'm glad that
Yeah.
you guys bumped into each
Yeah.
other in the hallway. Tom,
Again.
Tom, pleasure to
Yeah.
meet you,
Yeah.
my brother.
it was such a, Tom,
Excellent,
and I
excellent.
hope to see you in Bayville. Tom, we're neighbors in Bayville. so
Yeah,
hopefully
yeah,
I'll-
yeah,
you'll Come
yeah,
over
yeah.
for
So
something.
The last connection we gotta figure out from us old guys is, getting those kids to talk to the senior guy.
Yeah, well, it's got,
And having that communication
yeah,
network.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gotta be fast, I get it.
yeah,
Yep.
They like fast speed.
All right.
So-
yeah, that's the generation, yeah.
That's
yeah.
Frank,
all right.
any
Get
final
it.
words before we?
Yeah, thank you for having me,
always-
even though it's coming in hot, right? It's coming in a
know
little
that.
late. I'm sitting on the plane,
witnessed
they
that.
delayed it, and yeah, so
Right.
I'm always happy to join your program.
And
Dan.
we'll give a shout out to Steve Schaefer and Chuck Downey. They're not here with us today. Usually.
Yeah,
my
Dan's
other-
here. I'm sorry, Chuck is here. He's
And he
here
didn't-
somewhere. He's
and he
definitely
didn't-
here.
and he
He
didn't
got
come
here
to see
before
us.
me. You know what? You probably forgot to tell him about it.
Okay. Well,
Or he's probably scared.
until next time, be safe and I'll see you on the radio.
Yeah, God bless. Yeah.